turbine manufacturers, we built, I don't know, a bunch of them. They work, so there's not a lot of technology risk in what you're doing now.
Yeah, big time. That's it. It's very important that we can show a track record. So the first few years where there was no track record, it was much tougher the first 2 or 3 years. So.
I think from a financing strategy perspective, I think it's to the extent that the projects are smaller, the buyer ultimately look at the financing of the project, and these financing packages are oftentimes come in through recourse financing. So that the banks are not going to look too much into, as focused on the technology risk.
Now, when you say recourse financing, you mean
it's a personal guarantee. And so you have two tracks. So let's say in the size, whether we determine whether this is going to be a recourse financing or a pure project financing, is we look at the size of the project, and typically up to 2 megawatts. Let's say 100 kilowatt type system up to 2 megawatts. Most likely you want to do it, as a cookie cutter, check off the box, whether it's, SBA or whether it's through some kind of an existing financing relationship. The reason why you want to go in that route is because you don't have to pay a lot of legal fees. It's not as complex. But if you are going north of 2 megawatts, you got, external investors in, you're going to set up a special purpose vehicle to own the system. It becomes a lot more complex. And I can tell you, 2 megawatt type projects on a project financing, pure project financing, the legal cost could go up $250,000 easily. And so because of that, the bank, they won't want a guarantee because these are big loans. And so there will not be recourse involved. And so when we lend into a project, pure project financing, it's really up to whether the credit of the project itself. If it's not going to survive, then we get nothing back. We have to rely on the project. And it's extremely complex in that, you have in cases where, I went over the structure with the gentleman here, is that you have this thing called the inverted lease, as an example, to maximize your returns on the investment. On the tax side is you got an entity that owns, you set up an entity to own the system. The bank lends to the entity. The entity then leases the system to a master lease. The master lease then sells electricity, as an example. The issue with that is that the IRS will not allow the master lease to either guarantee the loan or become a co-borrowing entity. So how do you get a bank to lend to an entity, in which case then the entity then leases it, back to a master lease? And so, that is the complexity, and that's why it costs so much to get a project done. And so, but those that are in the, in the MBA class and interested in getting to, financing side, I think there are tremendous opportunities. This is a new thing. I mean, you're not going to get rich like, Gary said, here's you started a software company, or you're starting a Facebook. But I think there are tremendous opportunities. There's a lot of money to be made, and it's really up to you. When it came to the bank, there wasn't a program we put in place. Initially, we were thinking doing 5 years repayment, then it's 7 years, then it's 10 years. I think we're going to stop at 10 years repayment. And then what we're looking at is now, in addition to debt financing, we're looking at tax equity. We are potentially setting up, looking at further down the line, setting up equity funds. And at some point in time, you have these large aggregators of projects that are going to be, securitizing payment streams based on the solar projects. And then these projects could then, take an IPO or could be sold. And I think these are the kind of things that I think if you want to go out there and make a change, you go out, you put a plan just like I did, you present to somebody in, your bank, which, you're going to be ending up with somebody, and, you learn the business to the point where you are going to be so comfortable and explaining to the CEO and the chairman that, you know, what I did was I said, you know, I put my job on the line. This thing is not gonna work, and if the bank ending up losing money, fire me, you know? I mean, that's what I gotta do. And I am so confident that even today, I believe in what I do. What I did was the right thing. And I have no doubt, you know, our bank's doing well, we're making a lot of money. I mean, you know, the sun's gonna shine tomorrow. The project's gonna be there. You know, so from a risk management perspective, you know, I think it's safer to lend to solar projects than to buy a commercial building. You know, that's just my perspective.
I'm going to go to the blitz round. What is it we call it, the blitz round?
The lightning round.
Lightning round, thank you. So here it is. Because there's people who want to ask these questions, and I don't know, I'm worried about time, so I'm going to ask it for them, which is, there's people here who are interested in going into getting a career in financing, okay, in clean tech. You want to apply financing to clean tech. So Mark and Don, you got to give 2 top things that they can do, okay, to find that opportunity. What can they do, their first year student, MBA student, what can they do between now and they graduate to get that career in financing and clean tech?
I mean, I can speak about clean tech because I don't specialize in clean tech, but I can speak for the bank itself. You know, we're always looking for individuals who can not only crunch numbers, but you know, these days bankers are no longer traditional just number crunchers to analyze tax returns. People who can talk to people and be able to, you know, as Gary alluded earlier, we want to be able to look at the individual and talk to them, get to know them, and see that when push comes to shove, can they, you know, withstand the storm and pay us back? It really, you know, we look at the 5, you know, the C's of credit. I'm sure all of you learned, you know, character's one, and to be able to somebody's character, you got to be better, more than a number cruncher, somebody who can analyze financials. So you got to be well-rounded, in my opinion. You have to be somebody who can read people's, you know, character and be able to make the call. Because, you know, in lending, there's a lot of gray areas, in my opinion. It's not black and white, particularly when it comes to small business financing, I find. So having that skill set, I think, is so invaluable, in my opinion.
So well-rounded, get some really good people skills in terms of discerning risk. Okay, Don.
I think top 2 things. First thing is self-assessment. You know, do you want to get into equity or you want to get into pure debt financing? I think the place to start, you know, to see whether you like it or not, is find a reputable, good development firm to start with. I mean, locally, you know, there are a number of firms, or actually either a development or an integration firm, so that, you know, you could be a part of their project finance team. You know, you learn how to crank the numbers, you learn how to, you know, determine whether it's a bankable, you know, project from the get-go. And so I think that would be a good start. You know, start from there.
Great. All right, Louis and Gary, your question is, if you're an MBA who's not going into finance but is interested in kind of getting into the clean tech space, or if you're somebody else kind of trying to enter in the clean tech space more generally, not on the financing side, but trying to get that startup off the ground, what can they do? Student their first year, you know.
You go first, Louis.
Yeah.
My advice on that one would be, there are so many potential areas of opportunity. If you have an idea that you think the market wants, to test it as soon as possible. Not think of too many, you know, take too long to think about it, and then 2 years go by, 5 years go by, and you haven't tested it with the market. So even if it's a very small scale, to get that feedback quickly, to know if your gut or your sense of where the market may be going or what the market wants, to test that to see if you're right or not. So as quickly as possible to get something, you know, to offer something to the market, and that's how you would know if your idea, whether it's a product or a service, if it's gonna make money potentially or not. So not overanalyzing. If you're, you know, I've heard people that run companies say that they make a decision when they're 60% certain.